We're here in the Teachers Club in Dublin with Diarmuid Breatnach. So when you were over in England at that time, you were involved in the Lewisham Irish steering group, or you were the chairperson?
The steering group, yeah. IBRG had been set up as another example of what had happened in 1981. A Republican had written the editor of the Irish Post, who used to write a column under a pseudonym. Dolan, I think was his name. Not his name, but the name of the column. The No Holds Barred Dolan, or something like that. He wrote an article, report on the annual conference of the Irish Council. What was it? Anyway, it was a completely bourgeois group, Irish Counties Association, or something like that. And they had their annual conference, and Bobby Sands had died in the middle of it. And somebody had tried to put up a motion of sympathy for the family. And even that hadn't been passed. And Dolan said that perhaps there was now room for another kind of organisation to represent the Irish community. And then a Republican wrote in and suggested something. I think Martin was his name, his surname. And then bit by bit, the Irish in Britain Representation Group got together. Now, I didn't join it then. I kind of was watching it from a distance to see how it would go. And in 1986, we formed a branch in Lewisham. We formed a branch from an Irish studies group, which had been putting on a group called Irish Aspects, a course called Irish Aspects. And I had attended it out of interest, and it was coming to an end. The organiser, who was from Derry, Peter Maloney, he said, I'm not going to be doing this anymore, so if you wanted to continue next year, you'd better get together and do it. So some of the people who were attending just out of interest then became the organisers of the next group, and from within that core we formed the IBRG branch in Lewisham. And one of the aims put forward was to have an Irish centre in Lewisham. And we spent, I think, 6 years, along with a lot of other things, pushing the council for a building. And particularly active at the time was a pensioner called Theresa Burke. Theresa was a member of the Labour Party and had connections in the council, which was rapidly becoming, I think, the first Blairite council, Lewisham Council. But she had faith that she would get this building, which had previously been a co-op hall. So a steering group was set up, and I was elected onto the steering group as the chair. I think maybe I'd already been chairing IBRG branches. So I accepted that, and we worked at it, and Theresa did a lot of work, and eventually we did get the hall, and it was formed, and then I was elected chair again of the steering group, of the management committee. And I remained chair of the management committee until about 2000, and I've been trying to get out of it. I've been trying to get somebody else to take over. I don't think it's healthy for one person to be in such a position for such a long time, and it was taking up an awful lot of my time as well. A lot of things that I would rather not have been involved in. But it was useful as well, because the IBRG could hold its meetings there, could hold events and so on without having to, hire it or anything. And I failed to get anybody to take over. And in the end, I had somebody, and she got pregnant and decided she wasn't going to do it. So then I refused to. I said, next year I am not going to take the job. And lo and behold, next year they elected me again, and I refused. And then they were in a quandary, because to receive funding you have to have a chair and a treasurer and a secretary, and the chair was not standing. So then the vice chair said to me, well, could you take vice chair position then? Oh, sorry, somebody suggested I take vice chair position. I said, oh no, because then I know what will happen. No one will take the chair, and I'll be the vice chair, and I'll have to do the job. So I refused, and eventually they elected somebody else as vice chair, and he decided to take the chair job, but he always called himself the stand-in chair. And that was the situation when I left. As far as I understand, it's still going.
That's great, isn't it? And you were involved with the Kurdish Solidarity Committee, is that right?
Yes.
Could you tell me something about that?
That was quite late on. That would have been
1990s, I think.
Yeah, early 1990s. I remember coming across perhaps a demonstration or a picket or something in London, and I remember seeing that their language was being suppressed in Turkey, and that that even the flag was illegal. And of course that struck a chord with me immediately, because our language was suppressed here. It can't be the case now that our language is suppressed here, although it's certainly not been encouraged. And the tricolour had been a cause of riots, police riots in Belfast. So I think it instantly struck some kind of a chord with me, and I went to find out a bit more about it. And when I realised how big the Kurdish nation was, and how it stretched over 4 major states in the Middle East, I realised the potential as well of this struggle, of destabilising that whole imperialist capitalist control over that area. So I became involved in the committee, and I forget at first what I did. I probably just went along to meetings or something like that. And then I heard that they wanted to send a trade union delegation to Kurdistan, to Turkish-occupied Kurdistan. At the time, I had just started university, which was in my 40s then, doing an Irish Studies, a History and Irish Studies combined course. And it would be a question of taking off 2 weeks, something like that, making sure I got a passport, which was a bit of an issue for me, because at that time, and still, you can go to, well, I don't know what's going to happen with Brexit now, but still, I think you could go to Britain without a passport, and you weren't required to have it. So, from Ireland, I mean. So, the idea was that they would get people from different unions, or different branches of unions, who were supportive of Kurdistan, to go and investigate the area and make a report on it. And this we did. I went out there for a week, mostly around an area called Batman. It's a strange name, but it's an area in Kurdistan. And we were the guests of a Turkish union, but totally Kurdish in the area where we were, called Petrolish, which was a petrol workers union. And they gave us a driver. So we went around lots of different places. We would go through town sometimes and see bullet and cannon shells, holes in the walls. I stayed in a hotel. We were always put up free, nearly always put up free in hotels through those connections. And one hotel I went to, I got shown my room, and I came in through the door, and that was fine. Put my stuff on the bed. My guide went downstairs. I turned around, and there was a cannon shell hole in the wall. A cannon shell had come through the window and hit the wall on the other side. And I can assure you that every time I went to the toilet after that, I went on my hands and knees. I talked to the owner later in the night, and he was saying, I'm a businessman. This is a 3-star hotel, but the Turks don't care about that. And what had happened was that there'd been an attack on a Turkish military earlier in the week, and the Turkish military had just gone around machine gunning the buildings and with light cannon. We went to another place. We'd heard that there'd been an attack on and that a house had been burnt and children killed inside it. And we didn't get to see the actual children. They'd been removed. I think it was a couple of days later we got there. These houses were built like like mud brick houses, but they had carpets inside them and television as well. It was quite strange. You step outside and you don't imagine what it's going to be like inside. Anyway, they were telling us inside that what happened was this group came and knocked on the door of this house and asked for the son. And the people inside, it was a night, inquired who they were, and they said they were guerrillas. And the mother said to the son, "Don't go, they're not guerrillas." At that time, the Turks were sending some people dressed up as guerrillas to find information and also to kill people and to cause dissension and fear. So anyway, he said, "I will go, because if I don't, they'll just cause more trouble." And he went out. And after a while, the father picked up his gun and went, because carrying guns was quite common in that area. It wasn't illegal or anything. And then they heard some firing, and when they went there, people went there quite afraid of what was going to happen. They found no bodies there, but they saw blood. So what they surmised was that the father had gone there, gone to rescue his son, maybe killed one of them, and they had killed him and they'd taken the bodies away. But the worst was yet to come, because later that night a German military vehicle, flamethrower, came down and incinerated the house and killed 7 children in there.
Wow. And the people there, did they know anything about Ireland? How they have the Kurds, did they know about Ireland?
It was hard to know that, because we always had to go through an interpreter. But I remember that when the Petrolish leader welcomed us as English people, I made sure he knew that I was Irish.
The campaign against the Walla charges?
I took part in a few of those small actions, but by and large, I wanted to see my community organised, and my community wasn't being organised very well. I wasn't going to give my time to doing it, but I was willing to contribute to it. I was already very much involved in a number of solidarity organisations, Basque Solidarity, the Moore Street Campaign, Prisoner Solidarity, Republican prisoners. So I wasn't going to take it over, but I don't mean that. I mean, I wasn't going to take a leading position in it, but I was willing to support it. But it wasn't being organised very well in my area, and I didn't really feel like parachuting into other areas to do that. I thought it was very successful, but we have to remember, contrary to what was said downstairs earlier today, it wasn't won. It was put on hold. But it was the movement that forced that to be put on hold. Another very interesting thing is that during those huge marches, you would get the Irish Times minimising the number, sometimes almost to half. And it was very interesting that you never got an aerial photograph of the march during that time. And you'd never even see police helicopters in the air. And I think that was just in case one of them took a photograph and it ended up on the social media. Yes, it was very interesting. And unfortunately, as someone said downstairs, that momentum has been lost for the moment, and we wait for something to carry us forward again.
Right. Thanks very much, Diarmuid.
Diarmuid.